Sparkies and Once Upon an Upsiders. We are here today to talk about 3 movies from UPTV for the month of March. I'm Jess, your host, and I have Kari back with me.
Hi guys, so fun to be here.
Yes, and I'm excited to talk about these movies because I think there's a movie that Kari and I actually disagree on.
I think we actually disagree on it legitimately this time. I mean, we have pretty similar taste with movies we're finding, actually, which is fun. But
yeah, we haven't really discussed it, but I think we finally found the one. Which means now I got to look for new co-hosts because I only have people on here who agree with me.
it is fun when that happens, but it's also fun when it's when you can disagree.
Amy better come back. The power is going to my head. I'm just kicking people off the podcast.
Right.
No, totally kidding. Yes, it's always fun to have different points of view. And so let's jump right in because I'm pretty sure it's this first one. My Birthday Romance, starring Ali Cobrin and Jesse Hutch. And I was smart this month and I actually wrote down the summaries from UpTV.
Wonderful.
So, summary. Callie Fitzgerald is tired of her family fixing her up and questioning her single status. She is determined to find a pretend boyfriend for her 35th birthday party, just so her family will leave her alone. What she didn't expect was to actually fall for him. So there you have it. Pretty well-known trope within the rom-com
and
world.
a well-loved trope.
Yes. I will say it's one of my favorites, even though in real life, this would be ridiculous and I advise against it. Probably not a good idea. But I do love it in a movie.
I love it in the movies, and reading the description and of all of these movies before I started them, I mean, this one to me, I was like, oh, I can't wait. You know, I can't wait for that one. I want to watch that one first. Plus Jesse Hutch, who I just love from the Harvest Moon. Way back when, like 2015, he was with Jesse Schramm in that movie, and he was so good in that one. And he's a regular. He's been in, you know, quite a few of these type of movies, which so I like him a lot. I've never seen Ali Cobrin before. Have you?
I don't believe I have. I think she's a new face for me as well.
Yeah, me too.
All right, lay it on me. How'd you feel about this movie?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So because I went in with, I love the trope. I like Jesse Hutch. I was really ready to love it. And I liked the setup. I thought that was kind of fun, you know, just like her parents bringing all these people to her attention, trying to set her up with like this hilarious dentist. I think it was their dentist.
Okay, I gotta stop you right there though. That dinner scene, did that give you some major Mr. Collins Pride and Prejudice vibes?
Great point. Yes, that totally gave me Mr. Collins vibes. Everyone's like wanting her to just settle for somebody because she's 34, and so they bring.
He looks so much older than her too. I was like, what? Who are you picking for your daughter?
So much older. Okay, so that was kind of fun, and then the brother saves the day and like takes her out with his friends or something, and she meets the character Will. So I really liked it up until that point, and honestly, I don't want to start negative, but like I just thought Callie and her brother and her sister, maybe not her sister so much, but Callie and her brother were so juvenile in how they handled all of this, like rolling their eyes at their parents and like trying to deceive them with this boyfriend. And I was like, she's turning 35. Bless her heart. She is like in arrested development. I feel like it was more of a teenage thing to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I can see that now that you say it. I'm like, oh, I guess she was about to turn 35.
She was turning 35. I was like, and her parents were just they were trying, you know, they were kind-hearted. So I think I would have liked the movie if they had her age a little lower because of how she played her character, I guess. But the desperation to find somebody, you had to make her a little older. You know what I mean? Like for everyone around her to be so desperate for her to find somebody. So that is my take. I saw the whole movie through that lens of I can't believe her age and her actions right now are just not matching up to me. So it kind of colored the whole movie for me a little bit. But that's why I'm excited to hear your point of view. Like, what did you like about this movie? What did you love?
Well, this is what's funny is that everything you didn't like is what I didn't like. So I didn't really, the beginning was a little shaky for me, but it was after the dinner that I started to like it. So when you started to not like it, because I thought it started off a little slow and her family just completely annoyed me with
Yes.
how pushy they were. It's like,
Yeah.
if she wants to be single, let her be single.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I mean, sure, if you want to like help, like that's fine, but clearly she didn't want your help.
Right.
But I thought the brother was hilarious. He was like one of my favorite parts of this movie because I just
Yeah.
thought he provided like a lot of comedy, and I loved their brother sister interaction because
Right.
it was very playful.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't think so much about her age, and maybe that angle didn't bother me at all.
Oh,
Um,
such a major plot point though. Like the birthday party.
um, but yeah, so I enjoyed that, and I really thought that she and
Will.
Will, thank you, had such good chemistry,
Yeah.
that it really worked for me in the area, and kind of overcame the areas that I didn't like. We'll get
Yeah.
there a little later. I didn't really like the ending at
Yeah.
all.
No.
But everything in the middle I really really enjoyed, and so that really left me with a positive experience because I kind of felt like it was enough that
Yeah.
I was very forgiving of some of those other parts that I didn't care for.
Right. Okay, so the best scene I think was that scene where they meet for the first time and they're like just they're so natural and they're just throwing
Mm-hmm.
out their ideas and opinions about dating and I like being single and me too. I like being single. And so they weren't friends, but he obviously came to her mind when she needed this fake boyfriend because she's like he would know exactly my thoughts about this and he would
Right.
be in it.
And he's not going to leave wanting anything else.
He's not gonna leave
That's the
wanting
theory
anything
anyway.
else. Exactly. So they had a couple cute, dates and connections and trying to get to know each other. So
Mm-hmm.
you're right, that part was played really well. But let's talk about this ending, this birthday party that was supposed to be a big deal, and there were, like, 7 people there and 1 candle on her cake. Like, I just that whole party bummed me out.
Oh, well, first of all, that was like a huge, I don't know what kind of birthday parties normal people have, but in my family, it's just like 3 people.
A dinner,
Like,
right. Exactly.
not so, like, it felt like a wedding.
I know,
Like, wow, she's really
I
close
know.
to her family.
You're like,
Um, but I'm very glad she was honest, but
yes.
I felt like it was the wrong way to be honest. Like in
Like,
front of all these people who she really was deceiving her immediate family. She was not
mhm,
deceiving all of her. I mean, they thought they were dating,
such a good point.
but really it was her family who she deceived the most. And I think that confession scene where she just lays it all out very awkwardly
Yeah.
would have worked if it was a small intimate convo after the party with her family.
Right. I totally agree, but that was part of what made me feel like she was so juvenile in how she went about this thing. Because 'cause I'm like, "These your parents just threw you a party, like a big party, and here you're, like, making this confession in the party of how much you, like, didn't like what they were doing, and then you're like, "I just wanna be his girlfriend." I was just the whole thing. I was like, "No, no, 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 no. This could be done totally differently, and we don't need this big confession." And then
Yeah.
he leaves. She thinks he leaves, but he didn't, so
Mhm.
he hears her confession because he just went to the car to get something, I guess.
Yeah. Her present.
Yeah, her present, and he comes back, and so that they're like they have a little connection, which is great. So fun.
I
But
mean, the seahorse thing was pretty cute, I thought.
yeah,
I thought it was really unique. And
yeah,
it was endearing. It's like, oh, you brought her some little seahorses. But I will have to say though, I thought it was really soon to be professing love for one another. I was like, wait.
yeah.
That was a little soon for me.
Really soon. Yeah, just end by saying, let's go on a real date. Can I go
Yeah.
on?
Here's your seahorse.
Yeah, here's a little seahorse. This is where I want to get to with you. I can see it, but let's go on a real date. Like,
Yeah.
I think overall the movie was just, it was so familiar. We've seen a lot like this before. All these scenes, the confession, the fake boyfriend, the pushy family, the real connection, the real feelings, that they had, and all of it we've seen before, and put it together should make a great movie for me. But it just didn't. Each little like cliche thing they did felt cliche and felt flat. It didn't feel fresh, and so I was just bummed by it, I think. I really
Yeah.
like it so much more because I should have, because it had all my favorite things, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you did, so I'm sorry. I know it.
No, you're fine. There's some movies that people hate that I love, or
Yeah.
there are some movies that people love that I hate. I mean, I told you
Yes.
last time how the one Amy loved, like even like a 2 or something.
Right.
So we all have different perspectives. No, and I totally see your point now that you say it. It's just not what I focused on in the moment when I watched
Right.
it. And I think for me, it's because this movie hit 2 of my major like checkpoints, I guess, when I'm watching a movie of what I'm gonna like, which is banter and comedy.
Yes.
So, and I think it really brought that with my favorite storyline. So
I
I was forgiving of some of the other things that you maybe were not forgiving of.
exactly. That's a good point though. Two things there that you look for and want from a movie, and they delivered for you, and they just didn't deliver for me.
Yeah.
I just would not watch it again. Are we going out of 10 or out of 5?
10. We do 10 here. We have to have a lot of wiggle
10.
room.
Oh my goodness. I have to tell you, this is a 2. This is a 2 out of 10 for me.
Oh my gosh. We're doing a whole Amy and Jess thing with that one.
It was a huge miss for me. I was not into it.
I gave it an 8.
Wow! An 8! Okay.
Some real conflicting ideas here, people.
Yes.
2 or 8. We're gonna need some commentary and feedback.
We need feedback. If you watched this movie, tell us what you thought about that, because we are at odds, extreme odds.
Clearly. Oh my gosh. But that's what makes this fun. We
Yes.
can't always agree. Are you ready for the next one?
I am. I'm ready for it.
The Charm of Love, starring Katrina Lynn Norman and Tilky Montgomery Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Summary. Art historian Dr. Madison Turner, an expert in ancient artifacts, travels halfway around the world in the Caribbean to find the legendary Lover's Stone to save her beloved museum. But when she meets Andrew Fitzpatrick, an international hotelier with trust issues and a local's knowledge of the island, her search may lead her to true love after all. Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
Okay. So this movie.
Yes.
I think we're very much in agreement on this one. I have to say, I enjoyed the first 15 seconds of this movie. Okay, it started off with such this different sort of flair. It had that music. I don't even know how to describe that music, but it makes you think of like ancient Maya or something.
Yes.
It was kind of cryptic almost, and it like takes you through the museum, and then she just like powerhouse walks in.
Oh, she is in charge. She is in charge. That is her scene. Yeah, she is the expert at the museum. You could tell from how she holds herself even. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's just like, oh, these are fakes, like whatever, and I was like, okay, yes, I am here for this. I'm like, I don't know what I'm watching, but I like it, and it's interesting. And then it just kind of went.
Oh my. Did it ever, Jess? I have so many problems with this movie. So many. And I took better notes on this movie than I did the last one. And so the last one was more of just like a feeling, like,
Mhm.
it's just not cutting it for me. I wish it went farther or deeper or whatever. But this one, I can't even tell you how many things I felt were wrong with this movie. For one, her museum is in peril, like, and so it's all
Mhm.
hanging on this one donor who found this. His wife found a journal. She wants to go find the treasure that's in this journal. And so he's
Mhm.
commissioning this museum artifacts expert to go do that, to find this lover stone at this in this island, whatever. And then based on what she finds, he will either save the museum or not. So all of a sudden you set this up and I'm like, they send her by herself, she's
Mhm.
off on this trip by herself, which I don't feel like that was very realistic.
Right. She needs like a team,
Yeah, like a
you know.
team, like go like do your artifact thing, like, this is
Yeah. And I was a little confused. I mean, maybe I just don't know enough about art historians, but I felt she like presented herself more like an archaeologist.
yeah, yeah,
I don't know. I
I
don't know
totally
really what art historians do, but I feel like they don't go out places
right.
and search for things. Maybe they do. If you're an art historian, please chime in. But I was a little thrown off. I'm like, it just feels more like an archaeologist, which
Yeah,
really brings me to her clothing choices. That just really threw me for a loop. Okay, and I have to say too, like actually, just last night I watched Pearl in Paradise, which has a very similar, well, not
very.
very similar general plot line of like finding
Yes,
this,
yes,
mythological pearl thing.
yeah,
It's very similar. And Jill Wagner plays the and Jill Wagner and Chris Waha are the two characters, and they are dressed for hiking. They have appropriate clothing and
appropriate.
shoes. This movie, I guess the guy Fitz technically had the appropriate clothing, but she did not.
He did not. And even Fitz, sometimes, like, I took a screenshot and I sent it to you and I was like, what are these hiking shoes? Even his were like church shoes, like Cole Haans or something, like
Yeah.
really nice little lace up, summer casual business shoes or something. I was like, what are they hiking in? Like, this is, and they're walking in the beach in heels. Like, it
Yeah, she had
bothered,
heels. I mean, they were wedges, granted, but still, it's
yeah,
heels.
in heels. The clothing choice was so weird and so odd. So, okay, that was the whole movie, which, and I thought surely she's going to change her shoes and not hike in those anymore, but those were her hiking boots. Like, that was
Yeah. And she made a comment that her friend packed them, but I'm like, okay, like, but you're a professional, you have a PhD. Please tell me you went through your own luggage.
right.
and, and it was like, hey, I need my actual hiking shoes so I don't die.
Right. How about tennis shoes even? Like, you're a tourist,
Yeah.
but not even just a tourist, you're there to work, right? Not to like look super cute. But
Right.
she did. She looked great the whole movie. I mean, she had these beautiful dresses on,
Oh,
these
I know. I wrote a comment. I'm
breezy
like, wow, she brought a lot of dresses for someone who was prepared to work.
dig and search and yeah,
I
exactly.
would have like maybe brought one, but she had quite a few.
Exactly. Okay, so the first 15 seconds were enjoyable to you. Then it got weird. Then
Then it got weird.
she lands on this island and is trying to find her resort. And honestly, to be honest, like, she was there to look for something, follow clues and look for something. And this girl gets lost every chance she gets. She has no idea how to read a map. And it made me very concerned for her search for the Lover's Stone.
Very concerned. But this might have been actually the best part of the movie was the meet cute because
Yes.
he is mopping and he's throughout the water, and apparently the alleyway is not used ever by anyone, and so he does not look when he just chucks the water over the side and whoosh, straight down on her it goes. And I have to say, I think I actually laughed out loud.
I
Like,
did. I totally did, Jess. I was shocked. I was shocked because I was like, oh no, the water, he's going to toss it into the alley. She's going to be right there. But it literally went all over her, all down her head and her outfit, and I thought that was brilliant. I thought it was so funny. This meet cute, and they start to argue. She's down in the alley and he's up there on the patio. They start to argue about it, and it was just so funny. That was the best moment.
Yes. So I will give this movie props for that meet cute because it's pretty original and I
Yeah.
loved it.
Yeah.
People should have water thrown on them more often.
Yes.
In movies. Just saying.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Okay. So yeah, so they have their meet cute and she checks into the hotel and kind of just like hangs out for like a day or so before they begin their adventure.
Right. So, well, he though is, he's a hotelier all around the world. He wants
Mhm.
to make these hotels, bring in the culture. Really, he calls himself what? A cultural ambassador. And so, different places he goes, he wants to bring culture. But this island specifically is special to him. I think he was raised there or had family roots there, something. The island was special to him and it really felt like home to him. So he was taking it very seriously. They're also trying to plan a festival to bring tourists.
Mhm.
Tourism is down. They need to bring tourists. They're trying to get these locals to help and everything. And it's just everything's really depending on this myth, this lover stone myth. Right. So that kind of
Mhm.
sets that up. They have 3 days to plan this festival, and that was concerning to me as well.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, they had their own little side thing going on there, which I didn't really care for that story. It was boring. Like
Yeah.
nobody wants to watch people in meetings, and
No.
we had a couple of them, and it's like,
Yeah.
So, and I think too, like this plot line, the general plot line of just trying to find something, I think can be a very hard one to sell. And
Yeah.
even in Pearl in Paradise, it was a little slow for me because it is hard to, oh, we're just looking for something, and to really make that something that's interesting for viewers is a challenge. So they
Yeah.
didn't really pick an easy topic for this movie to begin with.
No. And
But
they tried to throw a lot at this movie too. Not only were we finding the Lover Stone with the museum part of it, but the whole island part of it too, with the people there, and then Fitz and his personal story, and then I don't know. There was just a lot that was going on. Oh, the journals, all the history and these
mhm.
more journals that she's going to read and stuff like that. And I was like, whew, let's land on a storyline here and really develop that.
Mhm. Yeah. So let's break a few things down here. I have a question. So when they went on that burst, when they did that touring thing that they did, where the end point was Ileana's point,
Yeah.
and she wanders off into the woods by herself because this is a very smart idea, and misses the sign that says snakes are here or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Um, did you think that she got bitten by that snake? I thought she did. I like it looked like it bit her in the face, and then they just kind of like did not even they just
Oh,
didn't even talk about it. I was like, but she has a scrape on her knee somehow, and I was very confused on what happened there.
she has a scrape on her knee. We didn't even see her fall. She was trudging through a swamp with those boots on that I feel like there would be more snakes in the swamp than in the trees falling from the trees. Like that was so weird. And yes, it looked like, I mean, it was a real snake and it looked like that would have freaked me out so much more. It looked like it bit her face, but she was fine.
Yeah, but she had a scrape on her knee
But she scraped her knee.
somehow. I was just so confused. I was like, why are they not addressing that she was bit in the face? And then he like asked her if it bit her or something, and she said no. And I was like, oh, I guess she didn't
Oh,
get
I
bitten.
guess it
Like,
did.
what happened? Like it literally went at her like, and it looked like
Yeah.
it got her.
I think what's frustrating with this movie specifically was that I kept anticipating things happening that didn't happen. And so it
Mm.
always felt like each scene was like, oh, that was it. Oh, okay. Like she wanders off from the tour group because it's exceptionally foolish, in doing that. Totally broke his 3 rules for the buddy system, stuff like that. And then he's kind of mad at her, but not really. And I was like, he should be furious at her.
I'm glad he at least like kind of like mini chewed her out because yeah, she really made a poor decision there.
She did.
Maybe he was more forgiving because she scraped her knee.
Exactly. The pretty American is what they kept calling her. But I do have in my notes a couple times, like, this is Pearl in Paradise. Like, it just felt like I've seen this movie before, different elements of it. I've seen it before, and that was kind of sad. But once she tells him about like the museum and the Lover Stone thing, he's like, okay, I'm in. I'm gonna find that with you. That was a pretty quick turnaround. Now they're friends and they're trying to find something together, I guess.
Right. Yeah. And then they begin their search and they start having a lot of these conversations, especially about love. And this is another question I had. I thought she didn't believe in love, but then it seemed like she was trying to convince him. They had this debate about love and she was like all about love. And I was so confused. I'm like, where do you stand? Because she had this whole thing where like her ex stole her thesis.
Right.
Which is
right.
But
and they didn't really talk about that anymore than that. Like her ex stole her thesis.
Yeah.
But then she does, you see her at the restaurant, she sees other couples around and she's kind of like, you could tell she's bummed that she's at this beautiful place without somebody with her. And so she starts to think through, like, what do I think of love and everything. But then in the face of his defiance of there's no true love, he's about to propose to somebody in more of like a business relationship type of way. She really starts to dig her heels in and is like, I believe in love. I believe in true love.
Right. Like, yeah. Okay. I thought that was confusing. Yeah. But let's go on that. The fact that he is about to propose to somebody else. Her name was it Trish? Trina. It was Trina. That was another point that I really struggled with because it just felt like he was cheating on her because, he pretty much just acted like she didn't even exist for most of this movie. He didn't really seem conflicted by the fact that he had a girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And then when he shows up, he's just kind of, like, oh, hey, and, like nothing's been going on here.
I know. I think that's one thing in movies like this that does bother me. Is like, just because we can tell and you can tell that there's no true love in that relationship doesn't give you license to go give your heart away to somebody else. Like, take care of that relationship. If you're going to end it, and then go and let your heart fall for somebody else. I mean, I know people argue that like you can't help that, but there is an element of something you can help in that. Well,
and I think if they had even shown him a little more conflicted about it, he just didn't seem to care. No. And it wasn't even him who broke it off. It was Trina.
It was her.
Like, well, clearly,
Yeah. Lucky guy, right? Like, he didn't even have to do the work.
I know.
Figure out his own heart.
It was too easy for him. And
it was way too easy.
And he needed more conflict of like, wow, I'm falling this other person, but I'm, committed to this other woman. So something's got to give, not just let me just go have all these romantic things with this other woman and pretend like Trina is just, off somewhere else.
Right.
Which and so when
she does come, she finally shows up to the island because he's not answering his phone. They need to talk business. She's his business manager. She joins them on this boat, this snorkel trip where they're gonna go look for the thing in a snorkel reef.
I was another point. I'm like, shouldn't they be diving? They were going so far down.
So far.
This isn't snorkeling anymore.
I was like, they need to be diving. Yeah, not snorkeling. So I actually liked that scene though, where the 3 of them were on a boat and they were talking about, talking about their relationship. I think Trina was trying to get information on her, but it wasn't done in a real catty way.
No, not at all.
Yeah, she was just like, you could tell she was confident in her relationship with Fitz, even though he was being a weirdo. But it gave her insight, like, I don't think,
Yeah.
seeing that comparison was what she needed to get out of the relationship, I think.
Hmm.
So more power to you, Trina. She knew what she wanted
She
and
did.
she got out of that relationship. So that was good.
Yeah, good for her. She didn't need to be with him anyway.
No.
Uh, okay, so let's move to more of the ending here. So they are able to piece together more clues because Maddie realizes some pages from like Fitz's stuff go into this journal she got from Dr. or was he a doctor? The
No.
Weber guy, just
Yeah.
the Weber guy. So she puts the pages together. They put more of the clues together, and she realizes like which beach this lover's stone is located on, and they got to like start digging up these giant rocks. So they enlist the help of everybody. Then it gets dark, and everyone leaves, and it's just her and Fitz, and they find it. And lo and behold, it starts to glow because it's in the presence of true love. And it's a nice story, but I am such an unromantic that I could not handle that we have a glowing
No.
stone.
No. You don't have to be. I mean, you could be the most romantic person and still think that this was ridiculous. This was
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous that this stone would glow in the presence of true love.
Mm-hmm.
That I think they even tried to give it a scientific reason that it would, but it was so bad.
Yeah. And here's the thing too, is like with Pearl in Paradise, even that one had like a myth that it was like true love would find the stone, but there was nothing supernatural, and it was more about the journey of finding it that it kind of tied in with that, and that's a
Yes.
lot more plausible than we have found the stone and here it is glowing in our
Here
presence.
in this one spot that we dug, that first place we dug, we found it, and it's starting. He goes in for the most awkward kiss ever, and the stone starts to glow, and they're like shocked by it. Wow. Which they don't even think, oh, this is true love. So they don't finish their kiss. They just think, wow, we found it.
Right.
Then, after all that work of finding it, they leave it.
Oh, I know. I wrote that. I'm like, why are they leaving it? Guard it with your life.
They left it. That bothered me so bad. I was like, you cannot leave it. What? And then they're like, oh, we found it. I honestly, that was another point just to me that I thought something's going to happen to it. Like they left it,
Mm-hmm.
and it was so obviously an uncomfortable thing that they did that I was like, oh no, something's going to happen to it. But no, nothing happened. Nothing happened to it. It was just fine, just being left in the sand.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
And everyone just goes and visits it to see it, and it's all great.
Yeah.
Everything's chill on the island, Kari. No one's gonna steal
Everything.
This is an island village. None of that crime and stuff like that. But yeah, so they go back, and Weber and his wife shown up, and that's when it's kind of dropped that they're planning on taking it back, which I thought would have been obvious,
right,
for an art historian / archaeologist in my mind, that they weren't planning on keeping it there.
Right.
And I was surprised that she was so surprised by that fact.
Surprised. But don't you think that she started to understand the cultural importance of this lover stone to the island, to the people, what it meant to bring tourism back there?
Yeah.
They actually found it. So she starts to, I think she becomes a believer. I'm being very generous here, actually, with my deep insights, because I don't think it's this deep, but she starts to become a believer, and then realizes the best thing for this is to stay here on the island and not to come back to their museum and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. So yeah, they wrap it up pretty quickly. Like the mayor has sold the stone, but then they realize this connection of the wife to Fitz's grandfather, and she like makes him like give it back.
Who knows how?
Power of the wife. Give it back. Give it back. And then they have the big festival they were planning. They reveal the stone. It glows again in the presence of true love.
Well, Jess, in the meantime, he thinks he was betrayed by her, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
He's like, what? She sold the stone. Does she know that this whole time? So he like does this awful public accusation. You're not who I thought you were. And then his wise sage aunt in his life or whatever is like, you wouldn't feel so deeply if you didn't love her. And he's like, oh my gosh, I love her. But he's already like been really mean to her about it and these accusations. So anyway, they're at the festival. She wants to see him and explain, what she hasn't done yet.
Mm-hmm.
The festival has like 10 people there. So
big festival.
That I was like, in my mind, I was thinking, this is a pre-festival. The festival's not happening yet because this can't be it.
If the festival had COVID restrictions, they could only have 10 people.
I know. I know. Oh my goodness. Okay, so go ahead. So they have this reveal.
Yes, they have the reveal, and it glows again. And Fitza does his public apology too. We have another public apology. I think he did it. Yeah, he did it on the stage, right?
He did. Yeah, he did. Which this one I was actually like, okay, you totally accused her in front of everybody. At least you're apologizing to her in front of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like this one made sense to me a little bit. It still is a little ridiculous. Let me grab the microphone at the festival and apologize publicly to this girl.
But then it's all good. They make up, and the Lover Stone stays where it belongs. I think they build a museum for it there, or something like that. And Maddie decides she's staying on the island.
She's staying.
She's gonna start her own something. She was gonna start something, like her own business of something.
I don't know what she started, but in my mind, it made most sense that she would run the museum.
Yeah.
But nothing about this movie made sense or followed what I wanted it to do. So that is probably not what actually happened. But he decided to stay on the island. She decided to stay on the island. And the Lover Stone only glowed in their presence. So
because everyone else is destined for divorce. None of these other people
no one else had true love. Just these two.
Just them. No one else.
Nobody.
The stone is very selective.
So selective. I mean, it's the truest of true love. So they had it. They had it.
Okay. Well, let's move on to our ratings. I'll go first with this one. So obviously didn't care for it very much. It started out with a bang, but then I just felt it got a little boring, and it just felt like he was cheating on his girlfriend for half the time.
Yeah.
Continuity stuff with her profession and her wardrobe. But there were some cute moments, like the meet cute, and I actually really liked their little paddle boarding.
Yes.
That scene, I thought that was pretty cute.
Yeah.
So I gave it a 3.75.
Okay. That's very nice. I have it at a 3.5.
Okay, so we're pretty close.
Very close. 3.5 out of 10. You hit the highlights. I mean, that was it. I mean, I wanted to give a half a point because I laughed out loud at this meet cute, you know, and that's always fun for me. I love when they bring the humor, but it just didn't stay. There was nothing intriguing about their search, nothing super awesome about their romance. Like everything was just fell flat to me. So it wasn't for me. I just really can't with this movie and the green glowing Lover Stone.
Yeah. Yes, they only glowed for them.
Yes.
Only glowed for them.
We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
It
was a rough start in March here for me with these 2 movies.
Well, let's see if the third one redeems itself for you. This one is Love at Sunset Terrace, starring Ellen Wogglum and Carla Marks. And summary is, tired of her fast-paced life in the city, Sophie Carter travels to a small seaside town to disconnect and self-reflect, staying at a rental home run by a widowed father of a young girl. With a little nudging from the matchmaking daughter, Sophie and Michael unexpectedly start to fall in love, and Sophie must decide between returning home or following her heart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So with this one, we set up the scene of, we have this kind of workaholic woman.
Mm-hmm.
She's having some stress with her clients. I don't know if he was her boss, Spencer, or if he was just like a business partner.
Her partner, yeah.
Yeah. And he tells her, take some time off, whatever, because she designs, I don't know if it was homes, but she was doing more corporate stuff. Maybe.
No, it is more creative. It's a creative job, because I was like, what does she do? So I was really trying to zone in when she talked about it. It's more creative stuff that she does, and she designs someone's like dream living room or dream kitchen, but she ended up feeling like a lackey to the stars. They had these wild ideas and she had to make them happen. So it really wasn't her creativity she was tapping into. She was just trying to make these stars in LA happy with their homes and stuff. So it was kind of draining work for her.
Yeah.
Not what she wanted.
Yes. And so she decides to go to this little place where so she had a painting that her grandmother did, and she realizes that if she looks on the back and realizes the location is this place called Summerside. And so she decides that she's going to go to this place where her grandma did this painting and take her little vacation there. And so she first stops at a cafe where she meets this little girl, Kaylee, and they kind of strike up a little fun conversation in the cafe before she heads to the bed and breakfast. And when she goes to the bed and breakfast, well, first he's not there, the person who owns the place.
He's not there. Okay, wait. I want to let you set the scene too, but I want to tell you my first impressions of this Ellen Wogglum, who plays Sophie, was honestly the first couple minutes I wasn't sure who the lead was. I was like,
oh, I know, me too.
I was like, she just didn't look like your typical romantic lead in these movies, and but then when she takes time off, she gets to this Somerset. She's in this breezy dress. Her hair's down. I was like, okay. She's starting to look the part a little bit to me. And honestly, I was kind of intrigued by that. I was like, oh, this is going to be really fun. Like there's a different type of lead here. She was much more of like an everyday kind of looking woman, really adorable. She had like this great crooked smile and really quick to smile too, really quick to just kind of relax and throw herself into this vacation, which I thought was fun because sometimes these leads like resist throwing themselves into rest and vacation, but she just that's what she was there for. And so she just
really embraced it.
She really embraced it. So she, over the first 15 minutes, just really captured my interest, actually. So I thought, did you think the same thing? Like you weren't sure who the lead was at the beginning?
Not for as long as I think you did. So like I think it confused me because like usually at the beginning of these movies they do a couple of like quick scenes of like here's the setting, and she was like in one, but it seemed like she was in the background, and I was like, oh, this is a background character. And then we got to the meeting and I was like, oh wait, here she is again. So she must be the lead. And I just thought it was weird they had her in the background, but they hadn't focused on her. So at first I thought she was a side character, and then I'm like, oh, okay, here she is.
I mean, she seemed at the very beginning, she seemed a little older. Honestly, it was kind of like I was like, oh, oh, okay, so we're going with someone who's older. But then she really just she got younger and younger at heart to me.
Yeah.
And even in looks. So anyway, she intrigued me right at the beginning, which I loved. So she goes to Somerset, finds this bed and breakfast, but nobody's around, so she can't check in. So go ahead. You were saying.
So she goes to one of the other little like cabins or whatever. She meets someone named Christine. And then she just kind of wanders down to like the beach area.
Mhm.
And then she first encounters Michael, shirtless and all. And here begins the many awkward exchanges they have.
Oh my goodness. First of all, this is not the first time she's seen this Michael guy. She didn't know he was the host, but he like knocked on the window of the cafe when she's talking to the little girl, and he does this thing and she kind of waves like, is he waving to me? But he's not. So now
Yeah.
she's like, oh, that was like their first little awkward interaction.
Right.
Then he is getting out of a kayak, takes off his life jacket, has this kind of like just athletic build and stuff. And she is watching him. And then he catches her and she says, oh, I'm just admiring the view.
Yes.
He was like, thank you. And she was like, no, I mean not you, the beach.
Yeah, so they have a very awkward meet cute. But it doesn't even stop there. So
No.
like maybe like, I don't know, 5 more minutes into the movie, she goes, I think she goes to him because it's when she wants him to hide all of her technology for her. And she knocks on the door and he opens it or something. And he says, my door is always unlocked for you. And then he realizes what that sounds like. And I just love the expression on her face.
She's like,
what?
Okay. Like they just had these moments where they said way too intimate things.
Yes.
To each other. Like, and then I mean, because you're my guest and this is a professional establishment and you come and use the kitchen.
Yeah. So those are fun. Because, I think that we all have times where we say something and then we hear it and we're like, that is not how I wanted that to come out.
Now, for me personally, they played that awkwardness together really well. And it kept happening and it kind of became their thing. And I thought it was so funny. And each time that they interacted with each other, like they saw each other in town one time and they were like overly apologetic. He's sorry for this, she's sorry for that, and doesn't want to be an inconvenience. And they kind of catch themselves and they were like, wow, I need to stop apologizing to you. I need to be more rude. And she said, I need to be more inconvenient or something. And that didn't last very long. He was like, oh yeah, sorry. And so the whole thing was just hilarious to me. I thought it was really funny. Now, I think it was too much for you.
Yeah, I can do an awkward encounter, but if there's too many, which I felt like there was here, it just becomes uncomfortable for me. I don't always embrace the awkward as much, I think, as some people. And so I was like, oh, okay, can we stop the awkwardness?
But it was a little like, it was their shtick a little bit because she sees him and she like tries to hide and like doesn't want to interact with him because she already feels so awkward around him. But then sure enough, something else happens.
But then here's the thing, like she's like that, but then it's like pretty early on she gets very, very pushy very quickly. And I think that's the biggest thing I struggle with her character is she gets this idea. Okay, she's a guest and she gets this idea that they need to have this like hosting get-togethers thing or whatever. I don't even know, was it like a festival? I don't know. But anyway, and she just like, you need to do this. And I mean, I can help you, but she's just so pushy about it. And I was like, you're a guest and you're supposed to be relaxing. And I can't imagine going somewhere, meeting the host and being like, yeah, you need to do this for me.
I know. He was really miffed about it. You know, he was really overwhelmed that she comes in with all of her exuberance, all of her energy, and has these ideas and invites people over. And he's like, whoa, because we find out that he, you know, the bed and breakfast was like that in the past. It has a long, rich history in the community of being a gathering place and a place where people, you know, come and celebrate life and do things together. But his wife passed away however many years ago. His wife passed away, and then he needed to focus on like raising his daughter and, you know, being a single father to her and running the bed and breakfast. I was like all he could handle. So she comes in and he is just like, this is too much. This is too much. She was totally being pushy, but he wanted to protect his daughter, you know, to not get her hopes up, to not be disappointed again, to that type of thing. So he
Yes.
was dealing with some kind of, he was over controlling certain situations in his daughter's life.
Yeah, and I actually really appreciated that he was very protective of his daughter, because it was, you know, he was overprotective, and it was like kind of like a small flaw for him, but I felt like it was very authentic to see him overreact on some of these things, you know, really wanting to protect Kaylee. Although I had to laugh at the waffle making scene when the waffle maker was clearly not on and he was like, "Don't do it! It's gonna burn you." But then like he opens it and it's just still like batter.
He like tries to wipe it too. I'm like, isn't that hot? You know, like
I know, it's
don't
like,
wipe it.
I mean, I understand like we have a young actress reaching for a appliance, but maybe we could have added a sound effect of sizzling so I could have imagined it was on.
I know.
Even though I could see clearly it was not cooking the batter. Maybe a little
That
more
was funny
authentic.
to me. I liked that. Okay, I liked a couple of the times where she did like invite people over for early morning painting or yoga
Yeah.
or bread. You know, like yes, that was, she definitely was being kind of pushy and very free with his space. Cause he comes out in the morning in his jammies, he's stretching, then he's surprised.
He's like, "Oh, hello there."
Yeah, I just thought it was cute that it kept happening.
hmm
And towards the end, at the last one where it happened to, and he comes along and they're baking, he kind of just stands there and he just kind of watches her and he just thinks it's fun. You know, like this little scene. He's not going to join in, but up here she is again doing her thing.
Yep.
So you can see him softening, but that was
Yeah. Yes, he definitely did start to soften to all of her ideas, and he was became more and more open about them
yes.
as we went along, and so they begin to have like more intimate moments, and I really love that. I really love Sophie and
Yeah.
Kaylee's relationship too. Actually, I loved both of their relationships with Kaylee.
Yeah.
I thought they were both very authentic, and like with Sophie, like doing
Yeah.
the pirate antics
Yes.
with Kaylee, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like he has two children right now.
Right, exactly. Or his dancing, he would always like dance with her and like run around and jump, and I thought he was playful, but you could tell he was the dad, you know.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I feel like this is the third month in a row that you and I like the kid element in some of these movies. And Up movies seem to be doing this really well, actually.
hmm
They create these substantial kid roles who add to the movie. They are played by great actors and actresses, and I feel like they just have done that really well lately.
hmm Yeah, and I think it's because, or at least in this movie, because the child has a purpose. It's not just a little like, oh, here's my adorable little child
Right,
to like
right.
melt your heart. But you know, Kaylee was, you know, well, the description called her a matchmaker. I didn't really see her as doing that so much, but
I mean, with the kayak scene.
yeah, like, oh, I loved that scene.
Yes.
Stop, backseat kayak.
Where she saw Sophie go down to the lake to kayak. So she was like, Dad, I want a kayak. He's like, oh, right now? She's like, yeah. And so she gets them down there to go and have this little family kayak time, which
Yeah.
seemed like a matchmaking thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I felt too like that she wasn't like necessarily even like the perfect child. I mean, she wasn't like bad, but she had moments where she would get like super exuberated or super annoyed with her dad, and I felt like they threw those in where she wasn't just like there like constantly a
Right.
perfect little angel the
No,
whole time.
you're right. You're right. I thought that was great.
So yeah, I thought Kaylee was a great addition to this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about some of these other side characters. So I really loved Christine and Daniel.
Yes.
I wanted more of them. I don't know about you. I felt like we did not have enough of those two. I was like,
I know. They added such a great element to the movie, especially Christine and Sophie's new friendship. And there was a moment where Sophie runs in. Well, it was after this another awkward scene between them where she like falls off a ladder. She falls off a ladder. Michael kind of catches her a little bit. They have a moment where they look at each other. And then she's like, I'm going to go to town. And he's like, do you want me to come? Or, and like it's super awkward again. So she runs to Christine's house and they have that conversation, that moment that's really meaningful. And hilariously, Christine says, there's so many emotions here. And wait, what does she say? She says, there are a lot of unexplained feelings here. And she says, I don't even live here. I thought that was a great, like, self-aware
I don't
moment.
even live here.
I don't even live here. What am I doing?
Yes. Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. Now, was it that in that scene with Christine, did Christine say, or did Michael say, sometimes you're forced to change and sometimes you can choose to?
I don't remember.
I forget who
what
said
I
it,
said.
but yeah, I wrote it down without writing down who said it. But I thought that was really, I
It's
thought
very
that was
poignant.
a good quote. Yeah. Sometimes
I
you're
like that.
forced to change and you have to just deal with it.
Sometimes you
Sometimes you
choose
can
it.
choose to. Yeah. So which one is it going to be?
Yeah. I like that a lot. Then the kind of the last quarter of this movie, we have Sophie's work begins to creep back into her life.
Yes.
She's ignoring all her texts. She stays true to that for most of the movie until Spencer shows up, is like, yo, you got some clients, and they're gonna like throw a fit,
Yeah.
like they
Yeah.
want you, only you.
Right.
You're the brains here, or the creative brains here, and we need you.
Yeah.
So she does go back, but she sends Kaylee the purple beanbag chair, which I thought was, I had totally forgotten about that by that point in the movie, that they had talked
Yes.
about that. And
That was
like
really fun.
so
She
sweet.
remembered Kaylee's dream room had a purple beanbag chair, so she sent that. She also painted a painting and left that for him. For him? Well, for the place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like her grandmother had done, and
Yeah.
so that was cute.
And so yeah, so the Michael has the little party on his own, and he kind of shows some of the history of things that have happened at Sunset Terrace. And then who shows up? Sophie's back.
Yay! Sophie came back, which, she left. She was helping them. She wanted them to do the summer solstice. She was helping them plan. She then leaves, and he's kind of like, I knew it. I knew you would leave. I knew you wouldn't stay. You're just a guest,
Mm-hmm.
But then she, rethinks her life and comes back, and he just made the announcement that they would reopen Sunset Terrace for community events, and so that's super fun. But we find out she drops some big news on him. Actually, she quit her job.
Yes, and so it's this movie that she decides to start her own business. I think I was thinking of that when we were talking about the Charm movie, but it's this movie. Yeah, she decides to start her own business, designing homes
on that place, at that place, right?
Yes. Yeah.
She quit her job. She sold her half to Spencer, her business partner, and now here. So she totally had like this midlife crisis and this little savior complex where she's coming to the bed and breakfast to Michael and Kaylee's life, where she's gonna save them, and be a part of this awesome life waiting for her. Now, that didn't bother me so much as it can in certain movies because I liked this little family that they had created, and I did believe this was a better kind of lifestyle for her than the one in LA.
Yeah.
But typically I'm like, whew, babe, what are you doing? You worked hard for that career, like giving it up for 2 weeks at a bed and breakfast. But
yeah, and now she's just giving up everything. I hope her business takes off.
I know. Yeah, one thing I really liked about this couple, Sophie and Michael, is that I kind of believed their development of their relationship, with the awkwardness, with the they're kind of playing house. She's the only guest at this bed and breakfast, so they're kind of playing house, and they really start to fall deep and fast for each other, and they're not ready for it. So that's why it was so awkward, I think, between them. But then all the pieces do fall into place, and she shows up at the party at the end and says she quit her job and says she wants to be there with them, and
they kiss in front of everybody, which is always not awkward.
And this one was awkward again, right in line with everything else that they did, but people clap for them.
Yeah, didn't they clap? And I'm just like, I don't like public confessions, and I don't like public kisses, like in front of a crowd where like everyone's just like watching them, like
right, like that, like it's a show, dinner and a movie. That was definitely, it was ended with a little kiss and commitment at Sunset Terrace. Like that's what it was.
Yeah. So yeah. And that's the ending.
That's it. That is it. Happily ever after from here on out. So with this Carlo Marx guy, I really like him, actually. Most of the movies I've seen him in on Hallmark Channel have been good. I think they've been good movies. Moonlight in Vermont with Lacey Chabert. There was a movie with Jen Lilly, Angel Falls, Novel Holiday, and Christmas with the Darlings. Remember that one? At Christmas time, I really liked that one. So I've not seen him in Chesapeake Shores too consistently. Yeah. But I like this guy, and he brought this movie up for me from what it could be, because I really liked him and his character. Grieving widower. So I gave this movie a 7 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't far behind. I gave it a 6 out of 10. Although now that we've been talking about it, I'm like, maybe I should have been a little higher.
Oh, no. Okay.
Maybe I'll change this to 6.5.
6.5. What makes it just a half point higher for you?
I don't know, because now we're talking about it, I'm like, I feel like now I remember, maybe I like this movie more than I thought. I think that the things that just were bothering me was like Sophie being pushy, and the party planning angle was just a little slow, and it's just not, it's a hard storyline to make interesting. So I think that kind of had it working against it. But the second half was significantly better for me, and I really started to kind of believe them as a couple, and I just loved Kaylee. So
yes,
I'll give it up to 6.5.
Oh, good. I like it. Yeah, the month ended well for me, so I was really thankful for that.
You got some redemption.
2 misses and a win for me. That's what it was.
Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, that wraps up this month's movies. Be sure to let us know your thoughts, especially on that first one, since we have a difference of opinion, just a little. And be sure to be following us on all social media. We can be found at OUAUPSIDE on Twitter and Instagram, and of course, following the Hallmarkies podcast across all social media as well. And leave us your ratings and reviews, because we always love to know what you think.
Yes.
Kari, where can people find you?
Yeah, come find me on at Hallmark Comics on Instagram. I'd love to interact with you there.
Awesome. And you can find me at Jess BSW blog on Twitter and Instagram. So yes, and we'll be back next month for, I think, only 2 April movies.
Wow, 2 April movies. I hope they're good ones. Okay, I'm excited about that. I'll see you then.
Yes. All right, everybody. Bye.
Bye.